Hey all, I've been making different mods and stuff, and last week I was airing up my car, and I came up with an idea when I seen the tire chuck that maybe the threads would actually fit my E-Cig, and so I actually took and went down to a truck stop and found one of these really nice brass bolt-in tire chucks or tire valves. They cost about $3.50, and I'm going to show you how to mod this to use as a battery adapter in your external powered E-Cig projects. This section right here is a really funny thread. I'm going to retap that to a standard 1/8 inch pipe thread. What that's going to do for me is allow me to use standard lamp type fittings for attaching this to whatever project I'm working. The threads of the tire chuck up here already fit the E-Cig. It's not a perfect fit by any means, but it's a very adequate fit. I'm going to take and remove the tire valve right here that's inside, and then we're going to drill the center of this whole stem with a 1/4 inch drill bit. This is a valve stem tool. What it does is it takes this little valve stem that's here in the center right out of the tire valve. It's got some slots in it that fit around the chuck valve stem in there. You simply just put it in like that, twist, and the valve stem will completely come right out of this. It's threaded on the inside. Those will be gone once we drill this out. Here's the little valve stem valve that's in there, and it's gone, and now we're going to drill this out. Okay, what I've done now is I've drilled this out to where it's a 1/4 inch hole down through the center here. As you can see, here's an atomizer from a DSE901 E. I'm going to screw this on here, and you can see that it has a nice snug fit. I'm going to remove this part now, and then I'm going to go down over these threads with a 1/8 inch pipe tap. That'll allow us to start using the 1/8 inch pipe hardware that comes. It's just a myriad of stuff you can find for putting lamps together. Okay, this is what you should end up with. Right here, you've got this was where the top threads were. The chuck was actually about this long, and I've shortened all those threads down to right here. You don't need all those threads. You only need about 2 to 3 threads to actually screw into the E-Cig atomizer. This section I've removed that back piece and just shortened it to the length of the necessary needs I have for these 2 nuts, and to go through the plastic lens of my Magnum E-Cig battery case that I've built. These are different lamp parts that you can get. I'm going to use a nut on the outside and use this fatter base plate to go on the back. Again, these are all threaded with an 1/8 inch standard pipe thread. Here's the tap that you get. It's 1/8 inch NPT. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this tap over these threads right here so that I can then utilize these different lamp parts. Okay, I've taken and trimmed this back. I've tapped this to the 1/8 pipe thread. I've put this piece down here. If I had to do it over, I wouldn't have cut this off first before I tried to pipe tap this. You can tell I kind of had to, I probably scuffed this up pretty good right here through the middle because I had to hang on to this while I ran the pipe tap down this. Anyway, this piece is on here now, which makes a nice new flat base. This is going to be my nut. My housing will actually be right between this area, and then the nut will screw down and clamp onto that and make a really nice new fitting, battery fitting. I'll show you how to do the insides here in a minute. This is just an old atomizer that I've gutted. I use it for test fitting stuff and taking apart batteries, and I'll show you how to use that in another video. This is going to just take and with the few threads I got left here, this screws on just like so. And then I have a new battery fitting housing for attaching to my E-Cig. Okay, for the center conductor in our battery connector, the outside of course is going to be the outer conductor or the ground. The center conductor will be positive. I really don't think it matters on the atomizer. Atomizer probably work reverse polarity or not. I've got some Tygon tubing here. That's Tygon. It's a medical grade tubing. It's used for small engines. It's used in the medical industry, used in food and beverage industry. It has some more higher heat resistant properties than say vinyl tubing would have or latex tubing. This tubing is 1/4 inch OD or outside diameter and 1/8 inch ID or inside diameter. That will also work with a number 6 brass screw will fit right into the center of this. The brass screws that I'm using, the head is actually almost exactly 1/4 inch across in diameter, so you need to reduce the screw head's diameter so it will not touch the outer wall of this casing when it's assembled. I'm going to put this all together now and let you see what it looks like when it's completely fabricated. Basically you're going to want to take a small piece of tubing like this, and it's going to need to be the same length as your connector, and then that will go down the center and act as an insulator to prevent the two conductors from grounding out or shorting out. Here I've got the tubing actually inserted in my connector. As you can see, I've got a little bit of an extra bit left over at the bottom end. You'll see why that is here in a minute. The inside should be inset just ever so slightly, so when the screw goes in, it is going to be lower to hook up to the center connection in our atomizer. Once you get the tubing inserted, then just put your screw in and start it in like so, and the actual pressure of the tubing inside the housing will hold it for you while you screw this screw in. Okay, as you're screwing this in, the tubing can start to walk its way back down through the back. Go ahead and just grab this end up here with a pair of pliers and just pull back, and then you can continue to thread it back down in. You want the screw head touching right on your vinyl, not vinyl but Tygon tubing. Pull that back out. Notice that there's a couple little spots on here that are a little high. I don't like that. I definitely don't want any short outs. It's guaranteed I'll be away from home and won't be able to fix it. This is just my Leatherman tool. It's handy for all kinds of things, and nice thing about this stuff, being it's brass, is it works really easy. With the actual tire valve stem. Okay, when you get to the point where your screw head just touches the vinyl, you want to stop, because if you continue to screw down, what's going to happen is the vinyl, or the Tygon tubing rather, is going to expand. We don't want that to happen yet. We want to take and get this up in there, and as you can see, that's going to produce a nice center connection. You want to leave that slot in there because that's going to add more airflow coming through the backside of your atomizer. It really helps in producing a really nice draw. Okay, so now that that's in there, we've got a little extra tubing back down here on the back. I'm going to cut that to about, just about right here, so that when I snug up a screw, that's going to push that tubing and make it smaller, and it's going to compress the tubing. When that tubing compresses, it'll hold it inside of the shaft and our hollow valve stem. What I've done here now is I've taken and put the nut in, and this nut is going to tighten up the tubing with inside the connector. I'm going to hook my atomizer up to this, and then I'm going to push that up in while it's kind of loose to make sure I get a good connection, and then I'm going to set this nice and tight. So there we go. And you should be able to use another nut on here if you wish, or a lock nut or whatever. I don't think it's going to vibrate off too much. It should be okay, but you can always put another nut up here, put a spade connector on, whatever you want to do to make that center connection on your post there. I'm going to trim it off and just solder directly to this post, and then put a solder connection out here on the outside of this other piece of brass. Anyway, I'm going to take my ohm meter out now, and I'm going to show you how to do that real simply and check to make sure that there's no shorts in this connector at this point. Okay, here's my connector. Here's my ohm meter. You want to set your ohm meter to infinity setting, or the diode test. A lot of meters have this diode test, or it has a little tone for continuity testing. When these touch, you'll get a nice little beep. If I touch here to my center conductor and the outside, no beep. That's very good. That's what we want to happen. Of course, if I touch the center lead up here, we get a beep. We get nothing out here on the outside. It's completely isolated now thanks to the tubing. I've got a nice space between the screw head and the outside of my connector. Shouldn't be any problems later on down the road either. Okay, so there you have it. I've trimmed off my screw. I'm going to go ahead and put a solder connection to there. Here's my my bezel top, so I can mount it against the plate of my choosing. And there you got it, one homemade heavy-duty battery connector for the DSE901 E-Cig. No more tearing apart batteries to get a little part that doesn't actually work that well in the first place, and it's not very handy. What I am going to do is I'm going to take a piece of this tube from one of my old E-Cig batteries. I am going to put it on here just like this, and then trim it to where when my atomizer goes on, that makes a nice clean black appearance all the way down to the top of the threads. I think it'll look really nice on my Magnum. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. If you got any questions, of course, feel free to send me a private message or post it on the forum. I'll definitely take and be following along after I post this video. So thanks a lot. Okay, this is an update to the tire chuck mod for a battery connection. I noticed that the draw wasn't quite as easy. I do have the slot in here, and there's definitely some air getting in here. I wanted to make sure that I was getting as good a draw with this as possible. So what I'm going to attempt to do is drill through this right about at this level right here, and then I'm going to drill a very fine, this is the actual drill bit I'm going to use. I'm going to drill a fine hole right here in the center down to intersect that hole going across. What that'll do is allow some more air to get into the backside of the atomizer, and with the higher voltages that the atomizer is running at, I feel that more airflow going through that atomizer is going to keep it cooler and give it a longer life. So that's what's going to happen. I'll show you the results here in just a second. Well, surprisingly enough, that went extremely well. I'm not at my home, I'm at my in-laws, and I'm using a very large drill press. It actually worked out quite well. I probably would have went through a lot of extra trouble on this. If I was at home, I probably would have bolted it into a mill or something to make sure it was exact. The screw did work its way down as I drilled the side hole first, and then I drilled the top hole here. When I did that, the screw actually started to move down through the center. I had to then back the screw out and just held the drill bit in through the side until I found the hole again, and then I put the screw through to clean up the Tylon tubing that's inside there, providing insulation. I took and also did a continuity check again between the center post and the outside to make sure there was no short. So it's got a lot of really good it's got a really good air pull through here now. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I'm going to put the little black sleeve back on, and we'll hook her up and try vaping with this now. Well, I can definitely tell the difference in the amount of draw that I get through this. On Letford's draw atomizer scale, it's definitely gone from probably a 2.5, 3 back down to a 1, just like as if you used a battery connection like this on a Magnum. It's real important that you keep that hole open so that you can get that extra air coming through there. I do think it provides a stronger hit than a normal E-Cig. You are using a higher voltage, but with that increased airflow, I really think you need it for cooling. On the atomizer, you get increased vapor production, and it really takes and makes a big difference. If you're doing a USB mod, I would suggest when you're using the little teeny battery piece, not to plug that hole up with solder, and just try it. Solder just to the outside of the pin, and not to plug that hole with solder, because I think you're going to get a lot more air coming through that hole into the atomizer, and you're going to get a much better vape than you would if you were to get that hole plugged and just use the standard hole on the side of the atomizer.